Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of the Executive Code Podcast. If you want to discover what your life purpose is, you're in the right place, because the best way to find out is to head over to our website, paulwilliamdavis.com. And on that website is all the links to help you to find all the different resources and ways of how we can help and support you in finding what your life purpose is, but not only that, to also support you on your journey, because we have an online community of purpose-driven business owners. If you want to join that community, and you don't have to be a business owner, don't worry about that whatsoever. It's all about helping you on and supporting you on your journey. So head over to paulwilliamdavis.com. You'll find out all the details there. If you are a regular listener to our podcast, you'll know that I shake things up a little bit. So sometimes I might have Nicole ask me a whole lot of questions. As you know, Nicole is going through a number of different exams right now at the moment to get her pilot's license. So that's what's happening right now at the moment. And then there's other times I have very special guests on our show in order to, I suppose, share different information or share more information, share more knowledge, wisdom in terms of helping you on your journey. If you want to find out more about the interview or see ourselves in interview, why not head over to our YouTube channel and you'll see the actual interview there as opposed to just listening to us on our podcast. I'm going to dive straight in, guys, because what we're going to be talking about today is all about love. Now, not the love, I'm talking about the love in a very different way, because literally for people that know the knowledge that I share, love is absolutely key. And I talk about it in the overarching purpose in our life, in what it is there for. But I want to bring on this very special guest from the perspective of giving a different perspective. And again, it's just hearing a different voice. That's all it is. And just, again, share knowledge for you guys to help you on your journey. So let me give you the professional introduction, okay? Diane Haworth is a modern-day mystic, spiritual coach, and founder of the Be Love Principles, who supports a network of conscious leaders interested in exploring relationships as a spiritual path. She combines traditional coaching tools with neuroscience and mystic practice to help clients become more clear, calm, and confident through their connection with the divine within. So she's also the author of How to Choose Love When You Just Want to Slap Somebody. Diane holds a Bachelor's of Science in Mass Communications, an MBA, and has several healing and coaching certifications. She loves the Enneagram and A Course in Miracles. Diane, thank you for being here on the Executive Code Podcast.
Oh, I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me. This is my favorite topic, and I absolutely love to speak about it. So thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Brilliant. You're very, very welcome, Diane. Apart from, let's dive into one element within your bio, and that because our listeners are going to be intrigued by that particular word that we use, a modern day mystic. Explain that for our listeners?
I think that most people, I know certainly I had the idea that to be a mystic, first of all, you had to be dead, right? It was all people from long ago. And when I started understanding what a mystic was, which is just someone that connects to their own inner divine wisdom, has a direct connection to, you and I call it love. Some people call it God, source, universe. To me, the love connection I'm talking about is to the intelligent, expansive, creative energy that beats your heart and mind, that creates galaxies. When you connect to that, you are your own mystic, and you're able to get your own information and your own insights into any relationship, including your business relationships.
Brilliant. Thanks, Diane. And the infinite, absolutely infinite, which is what we can all access. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, bring us through your story. How did you get to be doing the work that you're doing right now at the moment?
I think that my story has a different flavor, but it's like a lot of people who are listening to this podcast. I was just trying to live my life. Now, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, actually, and I've been working, believe it or not, since I was 9, started babysitting then. So I have watching my parents, watching my grandparents, my aunts and uncles. I loved this idea of business. I have been in business for myself. I have worked for others. But what the theme that I saw emerge was how when people brought love of service, love of a product, love of what they were doing for others to their work, to their business, they became the kind of leaders that I know I wanted to look up to. And often that included this infinite connection that you just spoke about. So throughout my career, I've certainly been a mom, a grandmother, a wife, and been through all of these incarnations. That thread of love is what I've found has opened me up to what I consider to be my higher purpose and what I'm here to do. And it's what I love about it is it's available for everybody, as you know.
Absolutely. What do you know what? Because okay, you may or may not know about this about me, but I originally qualified as an accountant, and I became a business consultant, and so on and so forth. That's the professional title that I would have had for many years before I came out of the closet and said, look, I've a special set of gifts. I'm highly intuitive. Here's what I do. So it's somewhat different. When it comes to love, in the business or the work environment, it's not something that would normally be discussed, just as much as being a mystic or intuitive would not be language that you would normally hear in the workplace. How do you approach that within the work environment? And again, it's also for our listeners to know about, like, how can we have those kind of conversations?
I think it has to do with just the way you frame conversations. I work with a lot. I live in Virginia in the United States, right outside of Washington, D.C. So I have, in my career as a coach, worked with government professionals. And, like you and I, they are what I call closeted metaphysicals. They don't want to say the L word at work. Their L stands for leadership, not love. But when I point out to them or other folks that are in business, and from my perspective, if your business is running a corporation or your business is running your family or the local neighborhood watch, right? That is still in the context that we're talking about. When you see people that have that intuitive knowledge, now in the United States, they didn't use intuition for a long time. They would say, oh, he trusts his gut. His gut says this is the business plan we need to go with. And everybody was fine with that. No, nobody questioned that. And if you see someone who is really engaged and excited about a project, one of the things I love is actually the neuroscience. And that is when you are in those highly creative states, like you are so excited about a project. I don't care if it's a new product or service that you're launching, or you're planning an anniversary party for somebody you love. You feel how the creativity bubbles and bursts, and one thought leads to another and expands. That's all we're talking about. We're tapping into that energy that we're calling love. That's expansive and creative. Now, one of the things I do like to point out is everybody that's listening today or watches us on YouTube has a smartphone. You all don't think anything of punching a few buttons and ask, what is the name of that actor that sang a song in the 1970s, and trusting that you get a response. What I tell my clients is, you're just learning how to Google God. That's it. You are just tapping into that wealth of knowledge that is already there, that comes through you when you know how to open the door, turn the key.
It's a lovely way of explaining the access to the infinite. You're touching on a little bit in terms of the difference of what it looks like for people. Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of people in business, a lot of people in careers, and they're on the hamster wheel. They're literally, it's each day just seems like any other day. It's Groundhog Day. And they're just literally going through life or existing through life. That's a stark contrast to somebody that is, for one better word, connected, or the mystic. Talk a little bit about that difference that you see in clients, and also in what you experience compared to what, unfortunately, the vast majority of people in business or in career actually exist through life. What does that difference look like for you?
Well, I can tell you what it looked like for me personally, because I was on that hamster wheel. I was getting up and go and feeling behind and, oh my gosh, I've already failed it today because, I haven't done this, that, or whatever it was. What made the shift for me was quite frankly, learning how to meditate. It was learning how to calm those stress, fearful thoughts. I don't know what it's like for you, but my head just won't shut up sometimes. It just goes and goes. When I learn to quiet, really relax, and that's something people don't know how to do. They think they relax if they're scrolling on their phone or they're watching TV. I mean, being comfortable with silence, walking in nature without your phone, just learning how to be still. For me, it was through meditation. When I did that, I was able then to hear these beautiful impulses of truth that had always been there. My mind was just too loud. It just was too loud for me to hear. What happened as a result, I didn't go up on a mountaintop in white robes and, chant Om. I learned how to meditate 20 minutes a day to begin with, which, by the way, in many, many organizations is not only encouraged, it's something that's a group activity, which I think is wonderful. But what happened for me was that I started getting healthier. I lost almost 80 pounds. I was very overweight, very unhealthy. I actually was able to get out of an abusive relationship because I saw things differently. I changed careers. I became happier because what I realized was that if I could have figured this stuff out, I would have already done it. When I started asking for guidance and listening and understanding that there is an energy and intelligence, and this is just my words, that knows the whole plan, then boy, things just started opening up for me and my life became happier, calmer, became more confident. Now, I do want to be very honest. It's not like I, jump on a unicorn and hop over rainbows every day. Life still happens, right? There's ups and downs. But when I realize I'm not in this alone, that's from my languaging, that's an ego perspective. When my ego, if I think my ego or my personality has to figure something out, then I should be scared because I should be scared. But when I relax into the love that holds me, that holds you, that holds anyone that will ever hear this broadcast, they just open up to it. That's when, even if I'm in a difficult situation, it still becomes smoother because I feel held, supported, and directed. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. Absolutely perfect sense. Because as you're talking, I was reminded of a command that I received many, many years ago. And so, and let me preface this. It depends on whatever terminology that people use. Yeah. So when you use higher power, infinite, universe, God, higher mind, superconscious, the title in some respects, for me, it does make a difference. But in some respects, for this purpose, it doesn't make any difference. But so whatever the terminology that you're comfortable with and you use, the command that I received was, come to me in the silence. Mm. Now, when you fully get that, and let's just, for people to really, really get that, it's to take the word that you would normally use, as in universe, God, higher power, higher mind, and just in your mind visualize the universe or God or higher power giving you that command of come to me in the silence. And now you'll get a glimpse of what we're talking about here in terms of accessing that absolute support, guidance, infinite intelligence, infinite possibilities, and how we are actually supposed to be living more so than how the vast majority of people are living. So it'll probably just give you a glimpse of what we're talking about here on this particular podcast. Diane, I love. I know we're talking about love, but I absolutely love the title of your book, which is How to Choose Love when you really just want to slap somebody. So there's many times that people will want to smack somebody in different situations that show, but how do we choose love?
What a great question. And I want to give just a teeny little bit of background. I've been on the love train, right, for many years. This is my intent, to live as loving, as the most loving human being I can, right? But stuff happens. And I wrote that book after being on the final health journey with my father. Many people know that here in the United States, it is not easy to navigate the medical system. And my dad went into the hospital. We thought for a little infection, and he never came out for almost like 20, I think it was 20 some months. And he actually died. We were going in and out of the ER and rehab and eventually hospice. And even going in with what I thought was a loving attitude, man, when you are in the everyday struggles and you forget that you have this beautiful energy, intelligence that's there to support you and is indeed there supporting your loved one or whatever the situation is, man, you can just forget. So I'm not a violent person, FYI. I never struck anybody, but I did get pretty frustrated. And I wrote that book really as a love letter to people who want to choose love. And I think the very first thing to understand is it is a choice. We are human. We will get frustrated. We'll get stressed in a situation like I just discussed. I was already an entrepreneur, and I went from a pretty robust business to literally sitting by my dad's bedside 40 hours a week. That wasn't great for my business. And at that point, I didn't have the wherewithal to consistently connect. This was part of my growth journey. When you realize that there is an opportunity in every situation, that was a horrific situation. I don't wish that on anybody. But what I have realized in retrospect is so many gifts were presented there. Now, as my mentor says, the gifts did appear and they were wrapped in ugly paper, but they were still gifts. I didn't see it until retrospect. One of the things that came through me, I should say, in that I talk about it in the book, it was when my dad was, I would say it was a few months before the end. My sister and I were in a waiting room. And we were waiting, which is what you do in a waiting room, for another doctor and another set of tests to come in. And, my sister, who is practically a saint as far as I'm concerned, she was exhausted. We were all worried about our dad. She said, "What are we going to do?" And as I looked out a window, this intelligence that was not mine came through me. And it says, we have to see, what does love look like here? And how does love move us forward? So that has been just an anchor for me. In that particular situation, what did love look like for our dad? What did love look like for us? What did love look like for the nurses and the doctors and the hospital staff? And how did love move us forward? When I find that when your intention is on having a loving response, it appears to you. I know when I thought I could fuss my way through there, or, yell my way through there and get people to jump and do things, that didn't work. That was just a manifestation of my own fear, my own stress, my own exhaustion. When I looked and really asked, and again, love is that infinite source that you're speaking of, what does love look like here in every situation, and how is it asking me to move forward? That was a huge shift in my experience. Now, my dad still passed, and that was his path. But my experience shifted. I was able to be softer, gentler. I was able to be held in that knowledge that there was a bigger plan. And instead of fighting whatever was going on, I was able to flow with it more. So that's the first thing I would suggest. Ask those questions. What does love look like here? And how does love move me forward?
Good. Tell us about the you created the Be Love principles. Tell us a little bit about that and what are they?
So that's actually a really good example. I'm running my own business at this point, and I happen to be studying St. Francis, and I loved what he says, make me an instrument of your peace. So for about, 6 months, I was asking, how can I be a prince? How can I be part of the peace, and how can I serve? So I was asking to partner with that divine intelligence in my work. And I happened to be at a workshop, and I had what I consider to be a direct divine download. I received in a meditation, in a visualization, I received a set of 4 principles. And they sound really simple, but they are so profound. May I share those with you?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And anybody that wants to hear the story can go to the website, because it is a pretty amazing story. And it also gives you an idea how these things come through. But the 4 principles, which can be used individually or together as a process: greet everyone with an open heart, without an agenda. That's number 1. Number 2, see the divine essence in everyone and everything. 3 is forgive quickly, completely, and unconditionally. And 4 is remember you never left the light of the all. And, I have to tell you, when this first occurred, that's not usually what happens for me in a meditation. I will get guidance, but this was a full blown, I heard things, I saw things. This was a very different kind of full-bodied experience for me. It took me a while to process it. And as I partnered, and this is what I would suggest that your entrepreneurs and your business folks do, I partnered with the energy of what I call the Be Love principles. So instead of there being, my work that I administer, I work with them. And I do that through journaling, by the way, meditation or journaling, so that I understand how they can best serve the people that they're here to serve. People have used this in business situations, especially in human relation situations where there might be conflict, right, within a group. They will use these. One of the things I really recommend people do is start using them one by one. It is so powerful to wake up, go in your mirror in the morning, put your hand on your heart and say, show me how to greet myself with an open heart without an agenda. So how would you see yourself without your baggage and your judgments? Yeah, that's really powerful to add, and then to ask to see your own divine essence. They're very simple, and they're very powerful. And this is, it's just my passion to help conscious leaders understand how to use them in all kinds of relationships with their business, their personal relationships with their body, with their money. They continue to evolve and grow. And I so appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share them.
But it's when you connect with that inner divine essence, and you have the intention to bring that to everything that you do. That's for people, like, the difference is phenomenal, but it's for people to really, really experience that and to get to know it and for it to be part of their everyday life. Yeah. But it starts with those questions. It starts pretty much asking yourself, what does divine look like within me, and how can I actually bring it forward? It sounds so simple, and it is simple, but we just make it very, very complicated.
I think it's like riding a bike. When I was a little girl and tried to learn to ride a two-wheeler, we called them, it seemed so scary. But once you find your balance and you go, like, you got it. It's just being open and curious and trusting you're exactly where you're supposed to be. From a business perspective, I do want to share that I got the principles in May of 2018. They were not on my business plan that year. That wasn't what my service was. But when I asked, how do I serve? What's my purpose to serve now here at this stage of my life, right? That's when they came through, and they've absolutely changed my life and the lives of many, many, many people all over the planet, actually.
How for people that might be struggling right now at the moment, because there's so much going on in the world right now at the moment, and there's a lot more to come. What advice would you give them in terms of connecting with their inner divine, connecting with what the infinite resource that we actually have, the infinite support and the infinite intelligence that we have access to, and everybody has access to it.
Yep.
But for some people that may not be as further on the journey as yourself, Diane, what's the advice that you would give them? Where would you tell them to start? What would be the thing that would really help them in terms of what's their next step?
That's such a good question. It came up with a client last night who was very concerned about the state of the world, not only our country, your country, everybody's, right? The state of the world and what it was going to mean for her in the future. And to that, I would say you and I and many people who hear this have an idea of what's going to go on, but we don't really know. We don't really know. The divine intelligence that we're speaking of, to me, that's like your life raft. That is that's your fire extinguisher. That's your safety hat. That is the way, from my perspective, the way that you prepare yourself for whatever is coming. I think of people like Nelson Mandela, who for 27 years sat in a prison cell, consciously loving his captors. And based on that love, in the worst situation that, we probably can imagine, he comes out and becomes president of his country. There are so many examples of people who have chosen to love, that have made gigantic shifts. In my country, it's Martin Luther King, right? Dr. Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Mother Teresa. You have so many in the UK, in Ireland. You have so many examples of your own. What I do know is your willingness and your curiosity. That is what opens you up. There's no right or wrong way. You can start asking, if I was going to follow this path, where would I start? To me, the meditation, the stillness, the way that you spoke about it, that is the best way, I think, to at least start if you are absolutely a beginner. We are so bombarded with information. And many times we don't even know if that information is real, is not real. What is real is what will come through your heart. Now, one question I get, and I bet you do too, is how do I know if I'm getting guidance or if it's from my head? Yeah, it is something we get a lot, isn't it? My answer is, if it's fearful, stressful, if it's screaming at you, that's your head, that's your ego. If it is calm, it could very well be repeating, right? I will often get the same message gently, but the same message over and over until I act on it or decide I'm not going to. But that calm, steady, it just feels different. And it's something that when you experience it. But being curious and knowing that other people do it, there isn't anything that is beyond you. You are you, every single one of you listening or ever will listen. You're divine beings in a human costume. You are, but you have access, just like you trust your phone has access to the internet, and your access never gets disrupted, by the way. You don't have to worry about cell towers or internet or internet connections. You always have that access. So I would say, let's start with curiosity, reading books, reaching out. I mean, if you're on this podcast, you are in a wonderful place. Listen to everything Paul does. Everything. Go through that website. They're beautiful tips and tools. And this can be a very gentle process, and it's just up to you and your willingness and openness.
It's you're exactly right. It's a question I get asked very regularly.
Yep.
And what I explain to people is that, and I refer to them as being inspired thoughts. And it's, take it as being a download and inspired thought. It's something that comes to you, and it is a divine speaking to you through your unconscious. And what I would say to you is that it is always, 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 if you were to really drill into it and tap into it in those immediate moments, it's always objective. It's always love. It's only when our conscious mind grabs a hold of it and it starts to play with it and then starts to bring up all the other negative emotions that people will perceive in terms of, well, why would I do that? Or maybe, what would other people think if I was to do that? And maybe it may go wrong, or whatever. It's our conscious mind that takes over, unfortunately, at that point. But if we grab it at the very beginning, when we're actually receiving it, that's our guidance. That's what we should be doing. And it's living our life more in line with following that guidance. Because let's put it this way, we talk about infinite intelligence, and that's one of the terminologies. We call it, one of the terms I use is the superconscious. Mm-hmm. It is, you can guarantee it knows an awful lot more than what we do in terms of our conscious thinking perspective. So it has already worked out everything and all the different permutations and everything. You don't have to worry about any of that. What you got to do is you literally just have to follow those prompts, those nudges. There was a question that came to mind as you were talking, Diane, and I'm hoping it'll come back into me again. But if not to worry. Here it is. It came back in. Thanks. So there may be some people that might be a little bit skeptical and mm-hmm. Say, okay, look, we hear what you're talking about, and you're talking about love, and you're talking about accessing this divine intelligence and so on, but they're a little bit skeptical. Is there anything that you can share for our listeners that just might be just a little bit, tiny bit skeptical in terms of whether it actually works?
Yeah, I can tell you that I was the biggest skeptic that there was. I mean, I'm just a regular person trying to make a living and raise a family and be part of my community. You don't have to be, I think so often, at least this is what I did. I thought, okay, well, that's a special skill and those people have it, but I'm just a normal person, right? You don't get much more normal than me. And it just is a matter of deciding. And if you think about it, so many things in your life are just a matter of you deciding. You decided to try this podcast. You decided that you were going to read a particular book. You decided that you were going to try a restaurant. And it does take practice. The thing that I was the most skeptical about, I would say, was the value of meditation, because I just thought, now I'm old school, right? I just thought, that's not for regular people. That's just for yogis or hippies or whatever I thought. Me making that decision to at least try to meditate was life-changing. And it's so easy now. There's meditations on YouTube. You have all these apps. It's so easy. And I will say, and I'd be really interested, Paul, to see what you think about this, but one style doesn't fit all. Some people really like the guided meditations, and there's times I love that. And there's times I just want to sit outside and just listen to the crickets or the birds, or just listen to God speak to me through nature. Sometimes it's a walk, a meditative walk. I would really encourage people, if this is speaking to you at all, and if you've lasted this long, it's speaking to something, right? Yes, if they've hung in this long, it's speaking to something. Look and trust that the meditative style that's best for you is right there. All you have to do is look for it. All you have to do is look for it. That's what I would say. What would you add to that?
Try all different types. You're absolutely right. It's not a cookie cutter approach. You could be literally sitting at the side of a lake, just for one of the word, staring into the lake or staring into nature and just seeing the absolute amazement of nature. In those moments, you're meditating. It can be absolutely anything. It could be listening to a piece of music. It could be, following a mantra. There's so many different ways of how people can meditate. Find the one that, first of all, find one that you can build into your day. Start there. And what I typically advise clients is, look, start with 5 minutes, because everybody can grab 5 minutes. Because how long does it take to make a cup of coffee? So you can find 5 minutes a day, because people hear about, well, oh my God, I've got to do 20 minutes in the morning, I've got to do 20 minutes in the evening. I don't have time for that. Start with 5 minutes and then build from there. And just try all different ways of how you can meditate in terms of following mantra, listen to music, listen to a guided meditation. There's multiple different ways. I absolutely agree with you, Diane. Just start there. Yeah.
And have fun. Yeah. I mean, sometimes literally I will dance around the office listening to music. And the whole point of meditation is to get out of your regular mental mindset, right? Sometimes it comes when I'm playing with my grandson, especially when he was a toddler. He's 5 now, but still being immersed in play and joy and giggling and laughing. Even good grief, this is just my opinion. I think this is why those little kitten videos are so popular on YouTube, because it's just innocence and curiosity and pure spirit at play.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. It's not a heavy, oh, I can't have any fun anymore because now I'm spiritual. No, you're going to have a lot more fun. You're going to have a lot more fun. That's my experience, at least. Love is joyful.
Yeah.
It's joyful.
Yeah. What, I may not have asked any particular intelligent questions. So is there an intelligent question that I should have asked that would be of huge benefit to our listeners, Diane?
Well, actually, I think you asked great questions. I'm interviewed a lot, and I've really enjoyed this. I will say something that's come up for me lately that is really helpful. Even though I've been meditating for probably close to 30 years now, and journaling, that's a big way to meditate and get messages for me. But a question that I've started asking in the last few months around my business, around my family, around everything is, what am I not seeing? What am I not seeing? What's another perspective? And that's just broadened it even more for me. So rather you pray, rather you meditate, or you're just thinking in the shower, what am I missing about this business opportunity, or how I could better serve my clients, whatever it is for you. What am I not seeing? That's been a very powerful question.
That's a nice one. Yeah, that's a nice one. I can see how powerful that could be. Yeah, perfect. Diane, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge and sharing your wisdom, and more importantly, for the work that you're doing. Absolutely. How is and what is the best way that people could find out more about yourself, what it is that you do, and connect with you?
One site that has everything all together is More From Diane, and that's DIANE.com. Morefromdiane.com. You can find out about my work, about the Be Love principles. There's a free gift there. And I would love to have you check that out. And I want to thank you, Paul, for what you're doing to help business people and entrepreneurs understand that the L in leadership is love.
Thank you, Diane. Okay, so you heard it there. The best website to go to find out more about Diane is More From Diane. It's quite simple. So, guys, look, I hope you enjoyed the show today. we dove a little bit deeper into love and a much, much deeper understanding of love. Once you connect with it and once you understand it and once you get the essence of it, it's transformational. I cannot emphasize that enough. And it's how you will want to be living your life going forward once you actually get to experience it. Everybody has access to it. That's literally, I cannot emphasize that. Everybody has the access to it. We've given you a few steps, or Diane has given you a few steps in terms of how to get started. Start, maybe even just take one action from today. That might be literally just starting the meditation or trying a different form of meditation, or maybe asking those questions that Diane suggested in the episode. Again, if you want to find out more about Diane, head over to www.morefromdiane.com. I'm going to put the links in the show notes, so they're going to be there for you anyway, if you happen to be driving or running in the field right now at the moment. If you want to find out more about myself, what I do, head over to paulwilliamdavis.com, and there's all the resources and ways of how you can connect with me to discover what your life purpose is and to help you on your journey. But until next time, I wish you every success.